Hi guys, I'm T or Tino,
And I'm Thea.
and we're the two people behind Small Silver Hardback. We're just filming this in the distant future because we realised when we're editing our Tenet review, we spent too much time. We jumped straight into thirsting after John David Washington and Robert Pattinson and forgot to introduce ourselves. So this is us saying hi.
So yeah, hope you enjoy it. And yeah, bye.
Bye.
Or hi.
Yeah, so Tenet. Where do you want to start? Let's go. What do you think worked?
Okay, what I think worked. I think I liked the general premise of the film, like the whole idea of Tenet and inverting time. And also I liked the visuals that went along with that. So like everything going backwards, and all the action. Like all the stunts are incredible. I saw like do you see the behind the scenes video of them of David Washington?
Yeah.
Like fight backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that worked really nicely, and I had fun like watching the film because it's really exciting. What about you?
Well, I like time, things to do with time travel or time in general, traveling back in time, inverse of time, whatever. Anything to do with that, I'm really interested in seeing how they do it because it's so easy to make it really convoluted.
Yeah,
and it's
so easy.
Like when it's done well, it's done really well, but it's really not easy to do. Great cast.
Yeah,
like it's I love seeing a good old lad from EastEnders on there.
Yeah, Tamwa. He's grown up.
Yeah, so that was
Blowed up.
a lot of Southeastern Asian representation, which was nice to see. You don't see a lot of that in like brown Southeast Asians. So I was like, wow, they're both like not fair skinned. That.
And they weren't like playing poor characters. It wasn't like shown in the light of poverty as well.
Yeah.
Which is very rare.
I liked how like towards the end when they were like inverse like the inverse side, like seeing how things and be like, oh, that's when that, and then like I love to having those aha moments. I had my biggest aha moment with when she like leaped into the water.
Yeah, at the beginning I came back and I saw a woman leaving the boat. I was like,
and I wish I could be as free as her, and and I was like, you're the
woman. Yeah. I think like the halfway point where they finally explain everything to the protagonist, and you have like your aha moment, and suddenly everything makes sense. You're like, oh my god! And I was like, and then when they were like robbing that place to try and find the art piece.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, he helped when he said, because
oh my god,
because when he originally said he like sorted it out, I was like,
yeah.
I just assumed people think he was like a bad guy, like in disguise. Because why would they not show that? And then when it came to it, I was like, oh,
that's what he meant. Yeah, that's when the film became really fun. Because during the first half, it was like all the action and stuff was exciting, but I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
Like, when is the inversing actually going to start to become an integral part of the plot? And then that moment finally hit, and I was like, oh, everyone in my cinema was like, oh, as it all finally made sense.
I'm trying to think, is there anything else that like I was like, oh, this is really well done?
I think just in general, just the acting was well done.
Yeah,
like
there wasn't any performance.
I mean, we're gonna get we're gonna get to this with the negatives, even though the material that the actors had to work with wasn't all them. The acting itself, like the actors still worked with what they got to give a really good performance. So like John is like super charismatic, so you're like rooting for the protagonist. Him and Robert Pattinson had like amazing chemistry. I thought they were gonna kiss, personally. Like at the scene where their characters are saying goodbye and he's like, Neil, wait. I was like are they gonna kiss? But no, they didn't. But the two of them just had like really great chemistry.
Yeah.
And even the guy who played Kenneth Branagh, who played the villain, was really good. Even though the material they had to work with was a bit.
There's not like one person you're like, yeah, you could have been recast. Like everyone worked for their role.
Yeah. It was probably a mean example to give, but with Little Women, that's the most recent film where I've thought that, where I was like, But yeah, so that's what I kept thinking. But I didn't have that at all during Tenet. I didn't like. There was no point. Like, this would have been better with someone else.
I mean, it's like it's less of the character's not great, less than the delivery's not great, which is
exactly
like the opposite. So
yeah, and that's not the actor's fault. So the main negative, I feel like you can't talk about the negatives of this film without mentioning the one thing that everyone's been talking about, which is like the sound mixing and sound design.
Okay, so what I want to say is, because I text you to be like, was the sound weird for you? Because I thought maybe, because I went to like not the biggest cinema, so I was like, maybe it's just like the screening wasn't that great. Come to find out, it was the movie.
There was a movie, yeah. Because I went to a fairly large cinema, so it didn't even cross my mind. I was just like, oh, this is terrible. Why do they do this?
That's how bad it is, if I'm being honest. Because I never thought at any point that the sound, I thought there was an issue. Like it was.
Yeah, so it didn't seem intentional.
What was your issue with it?
It was just so loud. I get it during like scenes of action, like with action films. Whenever there's action happening, the music always swells up and then like comes back down during dialogue scenes. Whereas in Tenet, the sound was like always up here. It like never came down at all. Even during like quiet moments of dialogue, it was just like zzz, and it was like up there.
Like, why? What the hell? The sound of the dialogue.
Yeah.
The sounds and the sound effects and like the action were really loud. Like I made we made the comparison of the propeller, you know, when they're like driving into the thing. It was so loud. I was like, so loud. And then they were like, that's why. What?
I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, you're catching. So yeah, that was one of my main issues with the film. Like I came out and I was like, why was that like that? Why was the sound like? I couldn't understand it. And I've been trying to read interviews with like Christopher Nolan to see what he says, but Christopher Nolan is like really bad at taking criticism. So if people bring it up, he's probably gonna like come up with some bullshit excuse to be like, oh,
something about the dialogue that made me look at him like,
like, oh, the dialogue isn't important, it's not vital to your understanding.
And to his like credit, that's true. Like you kind of figure it out as you go along, but they make the dialogue, they make it seem like it's really important. If that makes sense. Like if you know that like you want people to figure it out as they go along, it's like condense the dialogue, make it simplify it. Like I get that it's supposed to be science, so they like they made it so like so much that you're just like you feel like you're missing things. You're like, and at the end you're stuck with the kind of thing, did I get everything I was supposed to get from it?
Yeah, because that's the annoying thing as well, because the sound was so loud and there were scenes of dialogue where I couldn't hear anything. I'm like, oh, like, is there a piece of the plot I'm missing because I didn't hear when they were talking, when they're having this conversation, when they're explaining like inverted entropy, was when
it's on to the scientist woman at the beginning.
Like,
I'm getting some of this, and then obviously they had parts when they had masks on. I was like also getting some of this, and then just kind of piecing it, just like
some pieces, piecing it together. And like, I bet Christopher Nolan's gonna be like, that was the intention. You're only getting bits and pieces of information so you can piece it all together. But it's like, no, it's just bad sound design.
There's like a specific part of dialogue that it doesn't add anything to the plot, but it just then just confuses you. So like you get towards the end and you're finally piecing everything together. You're like, oh, this is why this is how this person does this, and this is what blah blah. Like you're finally getting everything, and then they have the moment where you have the big aha reveal that Neil was he was, what's the word, recruited he was,
recruited in the
yeah,
future by the protagonist. Yeah.
you're like, oh, okay. And then he said something like, and that's in, he goes, but today's, it's like the end for me, but it's just the beginning for you. And I'm like, he's like, you didn't need to say that, because we already now understand that he
We got it.
like that's
They're
it.
gonna meet.
Because
You're
everyone's
gonna meet
like,
in the
because
future.
you're like,
We got it.
oh, and then he's like, yeah, and you're like, what? Like, it's like, it serves nothing but to confuse you, because we're well aware that it's the end of your journey, because you have to like go back. But
You have to go back, and also we saw his character like sacrifice himself for the protagonist down in the cave. So we already know it's the end of his journey. We know he's going to die.
Exactly,
but you don't need to say anymore. We've already got it.
Like who does that serve? It's like it doesn't serve us to know that information, because we already know that by then. And why is telling him that he's at the beginning of his journey necessary? Obviously, if we now know that he's the one who recruited you, obviously that's not the end of the journey.
If the film either treats you like a dummy and over explains things and doesn't say anything,
that's the issue. That's the biggest issue, is like the failure to know when to explain things. It's like sometimes it doesn't explain anything, and other times it over explains things. You're just like, if you don't explain anything because you want it to be like a moment of you want it to be continuous aha moments,
then don't like switch and start over explaining. I think probably because in like Christopher Nolan's films, he has a tendency to over explain. Like Inception, there's so much exposition in that film, because it's just like Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Ellen Page's character walking, or Ellen Page's character with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character walking somewhere. It's just the entire film is just Ellen Page having things explained to her. So, and then with Interstellar, there was a lot of explaining stuff as well. So I feel like Christopher Nolan tried to course correct, because he heard criticisms that he has too much exposition in his films. So I was like, okay, I won't over explain. But then he like couldn't help but to still do the over exposition thing, because it's like just a habit for him at this point.
So we've talked about issues with it, but what would be like our solutions? What would we personally do to the movie to make it, because I feel like it had potential to be a really good movie. Like I really enjoyed the premise of it. All the incredible. Like the storyline is a fun storyline. Like it's interesting. How do we make it work? Like how do we rectify the issues that we have with it?
Well, I guess the obvious thing would be sound mixing. Just turn down the volume knob just a little bit. It's like tiny little
no reason why the volume should be 300 and the
there's no reason at all. And then also, I guess, we didn't really mention this when we were talking about our criticisms, but the character work. The characters needed a bit more development. Because even with like the protagonist, you don't even know his name, which just tells you everything you need to know. He's just like kind of a vessel.
I guess they try to make a point of it, like I'm the protagonist. Like I get that that's part of it.
It's part of the story. But I don't need to know his name, just a bit about a bit of his background, a bit of his motivation. Because the only thing you have about him is that he didn't take that suicide pill at the start of the film, which means he's willing to die for the cause, and that's why he's recruited, and that's it. And then with the other characters, they have like no development whatsoever. The villain is the only one who's kind of developed. Everyone else, nothing. They're just like, they're all just vessels for the story.
Also, like we don't cast 6'3" legend and make her a damsel in distress. It's like he tried to do, he basically made her a damsel in distress, and then we're like, but she's gonna shoot him at the end, so she's not really a damsel. Like, but you don't do that in the last 5 minutes of the movie.
She spent the entire film basically being rescued by the male character. You can't then be in the end be like, but she shot her abusive husband, so is she a damsel? Like, yeah, she is. You spend like 2 hours with her needing to be rescued. You trying to undo it in the last 5 minutes doesn't change that.
And they made it very obvious that that's what she was going to do. Like when he was like, don't do anything crazy, we got a plan.
But in general, Christopher Nolan's like really, really abysmal at writing female characters. So I don't think anyone would be surprised to be like, oh, the one female character is quite poorly written.
Like him having all this stuff against her about the forged art was enough of a storyline. Like it didn't need to be about her being, oh my god, my son. Like her, like that is like illegal in itself. That's all her career, like her going to jail. That's like enough of a storyline for her to be in like him without being like, oh my ovaries, oh my womb.
Yeah, he kept like just giving her things like, oh, and then he has all this to her. He's threatening her to go to jail. Oh, he's threatening with taking her son away. Oh, and now her life is literally in danger because she's been shot with an inverted bullet. Like, this is so unnecessary. Just pick one bit of conflict. Don't keep piling it on her.
Only character who their like lack of character development makes sense is Neil, because we're not supposed to know that he is supposed to be, you know, it feeds into the aha moment at the end.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Fair enough, but the rest of them,
just anything, something to hold on to. Because I watched a few of Christopher Nolan's films in the lead up to going to watch Tenet, and in his other films, the character work isn't great there either. Because people are just being more critical of Tenet, but it's been there in his other films. Like I was watching, to keep bringing up Inception, each character is introduced and there's like one sentence that basically just says anything about the character. So it's like, this is Ellen Page, she's an architect and she thinks outside the box because she drew a round maze. This is Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's uptight and he always wears a 3-piece suit. I was literally saying to my friend, outside of like the Dark Knight trilogy, because that's with comic book characters who have like decades of canon and pre-established characterizations, like I was like, name a memorable Christopher Nolan character, like their name, not the actor. And he was like, I was like, exactly. Exactly. So his character work's always been pretty bad anyway, which people are going to jump me for saying. But yeah, so if I were to fix it, fix sound mixing, give the characters a bit more development, just establish like their motivations. We don't need like a backstory, we don't need their life stories, just something for their motivations, like why are they doing this, why are they so willing to risk their lives, like trying to find this weapon, just anything. What about you?
I think the same, but I also would say the script needed a massive rewrite. It needs to be rewritten in a way that makes it so that we're not like, oh, did I miss something? Is it like, oh, that's an important piece of information? And I don't know if that is an issue with the writing or because of the sound mixing. I think both of those things serve to ruin that. Like, it's like maybe the dialogue was better than I thought it was, but I caught about 25 seconds.
Yeah.
I feel like when he's talking to the female scientist at the beginning, like them having like speaking, like the way they spoke makes sense. But I feel like talking to other people, it doesn't need to be in the same way.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be kind of figuring it out. So I feel like sometimes they made him seem like he had too much clarity on the actual concept version.
Yeah.
Like everyone around him is supposed to have a better grasp on it than he does. Like, and like Neil as well, like he's supposed to be presenting to him as if he doesn't really understand it all the way, though he does. And they didn't do that well either.
Yeah, it's so annoying because the film had so much potential. The premise is incredible. It's like so unique and like nothing we've ever seen before, and so much could have been done with it. So I was a little bit disappointed with the end result.
That was a good story. It just wasn't done that well.
Yeah.
There's like, that's why I feel like I couldn't give it like a really crappy review, because I actually really liked the story.
Yeah, me too. Like, even though I had so many complaints, I still really appreciated the concept.
Yeah.
That if there's one thing Christopher Nolan does well, it's coming up with cool concepts.
Yeah.
Like, he might not know how to write women or how to write characters in general, but he can always come up with cool concepts that will like blow your mind.
Yeah.
So even when I came out, I was like, that was so cool. Like the whole idea of Tenet, inverting time, the way the film was structured, like has a circular structure, and just like Tenet, which is a palindrome, blah blah blah, all of that amazing. But it's just everything else, like just because the concept was so cool, I still gave it a pretty good score.
Yeah, it was a really strong concept.
Yeah.
The concept carries, the concept and the actors, like the brilliant casting and the concept carry the movie. Because the execution, the sound mixing, the dialogue,
the characters.
Yeah.
It's just...
John David Washington did do a reverse fight scene, and that might be the entire glue.
It's literally John David Washington being a former pro athlete. Is only he's like in really good shape and was carrying that entire film on his muscular shoulders. He's literally the only reason that film worked or was half as good as it was.
So that's basically the end of it, because after that, like we said at the beginning, it just goes into thirsting. But I'm gonna add some of the cutout bits after this, so you can see how it ended up and how we strayed so far away from the topic.
Lockdown has been long and it's been hard on your girls, so we got a bit sidetracked. So yeah, thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.